So if Yeshua isn't telling us to literally eat and drink his flesh and blood, or that the bread and drink are actually or spiritually imbued with the substance of Messiah, then what exactly is Yeshua saying here? Let's take a look at it again, this time from Matthew's point of view. First of all, we need to remember that Yeshua wasn't saying these words in a vacuum, but in the context of the eve of his execution and his final Passover with his disciples. The Passover itself being a memorial, a remembrance of the very first Passover in Egypt. And part of their Passover meal was the matzah, the unleavened bread, which is explicitly prescribed by Moses in the Torah to be eaten with the Passover lamb as a reminder of the Exodus, of when Israel left Egypt, finally set free from centuries of slavery. And they also had there the fruit of the vine. So these elements, the bread and drink, were all just part of a normal annual Passover meal, nothing unusual or out of the ordinary. And according to Matthew chapter 26, verses 26 through 28, as they were eating, Yeshua, having taken some matzah bread and having blessed it, broke it, and giving it to the disciples, said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And having taken the cup and having given thanks, he gave to them, saying, "Drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant that for many is being poured out for release from sins." So when Yeshua said that this bread is my body and this cup is my blood, what he was doing in the context of the Passover memorial meal was to link the annual remembrance of the events of the Exodus also to himself, to explain how he fulfilled and embodied the Passover. That just as those perfect lambs were sacrificed and their blood painted on the doorposts of Israel's homes, causing God to pass over them, save them from death, and set them free from physical slavery, so will the sinless body and blood of the Lamb of God, Yeshua, be sacrificed on behalf of the world, so that God's judgment would pass over anyone who believes in him, saving us from eternal death and setting us free from the slavery of sin. And this is exactly what Yeshua says here in Matthew, that his blood for many is being poured out for the release from sins. Release and freedom are the very themes of Passover. So this that Yeshua wants them to do to his remembrance, as Luke reports, is that when they remember this major event from Israel's history, the Passover and Exodus from Egypt, that they also see in it a foreshadowing of him, that he is the Lamb of God who's come to take away the sin of the world. And that when we eat the matzah and drink the fruit of the vine at each Passover, we consume the reality that there is no true life without Yeshua, that there's no hunger and no thirst that he cannot satisfy. And we remember the greatest event in all of human history, the once and for all sacrifice that truly sets us free. So in saying, "This is my body and this is my blood, do this to the remembrance of me," Yeshua wasn't instituting a new sacrament for the Christian church at all. He wasn't creating a standalone ritual separate from its historical Jewish context in the Passover meal, but was instead explaining his fulfillment of the Passover and the Exodus, teaching us how to remember them with their meaning completed in him. Nowhere in any of the gospel accounts does Yeshua even invoke the term the Lord's Supper, much less institute a sacrament known as the Eucharist or communion.